And so we incorporated a custom piece of software, 3D scanning and 3D printing. And so we took a 15-hour process that was very rigid and linear and messy and wasteful, and we brought it down to a 4-man-hour process. And we've reduced waste by 67% roughly. We've created a product that is breathable, waterproof, flexible, and offers a ton of adjustability when it comes to tweaking the leg angle and whatnot. So just another great example of how you can use 3D printing to transform a business model, make something that was not profitable and had a huge opportunity into something that is, and capture it.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. My name is Ken Tenser, CEO of SpyderWorks, a leading business consultancy for mid-market organizations and entrepreneurs globally. With me today is Alex Tholl, CEO of Dive Design, a product studio strategically building industry-shaping products and brands through high-flow 3D printing. Like this video if you enjoy our show and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Alex Tholl, welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Thanks for having me.
So Alex, you're not that far out of school, which is amazing. And I say that because you've already had some products that you and your firm have designed in Wired magazine and others. So that's something that typically people would dream of their whole career. It's like winning the NBA playoffs or the Stanley Cup in your first year or two. How does that happen?
I'm very humbled by that. I appreciate it. I think the recipe was having a really great team and solving a really complex problem. That's kind of what it came down to. But we are all about networking. When we first started the company, it was all about going to networking events. And that's really what led us into collaborating with a much larger entity who introduced us to Wired. So it was all through, networking, but happy to dive into that more if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what you do, and then we can get into the networking part. And the one thing I will say is, it's amazing intuition. People have asked me, I've been an entrepreneur for a little bit longer, and they always say, like, how do you get out and meet people? And I say, it's not by staring at your screen. And I know the last couple of years have had us at home or whatever, staring at our screen, but man, there's nothing like getting out and saying hello to somebody in person.
I agree.
Great insight off the top. But let's take a step back. As we talk about your firm, you mentioned your firm and what you do. Your background is industrial design. And what I really love is adding a business minor to that. So just walk me through the education part and why you thought business was so critical to the whole experience.
So design has always been something that I've really enjoyed. And industrial design is really the intersection between engineering, art, and business in a lot of sense. And so I had chosen to go to Philadelphia University, which is now Thomas Jefferson University, because the program really looped in how products exist in the real world, not so much how they look and feel, which is important, but how they exist, how they can be profitable and help companies grow and succeed. And I thought that for someone like me, that would be the absolute best track. And my business partner, I felt the same way, which is where we had met. But that's, I think, critical. Like, anyone who's designing a product needs to understand what it's like to produce the product, how much it costs to create a mold, or how much it costs to do the prototyping and the design work. And for us, being able to advise our clients on that when we first started the business was really critical. And also running a business too. So
great insight. I mean, it's funny. My son is just going back for his master's in architecture, and I had him in for an internship at our firm, and I did that because I said, now you've got to learn the business of your business.
Yes. Yes.
As you described, it's working with clients, finding clients, understanding their pain points. Because yes, product, whether it's physical product or putting up a building, critical. But if you don't understand their pain points and how to make their lives easier, man, it's going to be a tough road in your
Couldn't agree more.
business side.
I couldn't agree more.
So you and your partner Adam, you met in university. Does your firm Dive Design, did it come out of the university experience like right away, or?
Yeah, I'll paint a little bit more color. I'll add some more color to that. So we met our freshman year doing a design competition for those with disabilities. That's kind of how we met.
Wow. Okay.
We ended up winning that competition, which I think sparked that interest of working together. And throughout college, we ended up doing a number of projects together. Our junior year, we had internships, and we had come back with quite a bit of freelance work in our personal time. And so much so that we needed the help of each other to complete it. And so we had said, we're doing this more seriously. Why don't we turn this into an LLC and try and grow it? And so our senior year, we started to expand that. We graduated college and we moved out of my parents' basement within 3 months into a really beautiful studio. But really grassroots. We started the business with $200 in business cards. We never took on an investment. It was really just proof to ourselves that we could do this. And we didn't have anything to lose. We didn't have families to take care of or mortgages or anything like that. So we said there's no better time for us than right now. And add a little bit more color to that. When the pandemic hit, we realized that we were not enjoying the work as much as we thought we were. And that relates directly to do industrial design work. We were having trouble finding our place between high tier firms that have existed for decades and the freelancers on Upwork and Fiverr that were just dirt cheap. And so what we were really well known for was our ability in additive manufacturing, 3D printing. And so the pandemic was the catalyst for our business model to change. And now we're really a marketing firm for these additive technology companies. And the assets we use for marketing are products that we design. So our design backgrounds still come full fruition for it. So it's been an amazing journey.
Just for myself as well as the listeners, what is additive manufacturing?
Great question. Also known as 3D printing. It's the act of creating a product using material like plastics or metals, some types of polymers, versus subtractive, which a lot of people know as CNC or removing material. So it's
right,
the opposite.
And you also talk about high flow 3D printing. What is that relative to traditional, I guess?
Yeah, I know. There are hundreds of different types of 3D printing methods, right? Whether we're talking about powder beds, SLAs, SLS. I mean, I could go on for years talking about this. But when it comes to a style called FDM, which is known for by fused deposition modeling, it's almost like a hot glue gun that's going around in a specific direction, laying down that glue or that plastic. Traditionally, it's been a slow process. But new machines that now use high flow basically speed that process up significantly. And it's one of the fastest ways to produce a product. Granted, it's lower fidelity, but for larger products, it is the best way to do it.
So walk me through it a little bit. I'm a potential client. Like, who am I, and what does this additive manufacturing or high flow 3D, what does it do for me in terms of getting an idea out of my head and into market more quickly?
We have this conversation daily because we also help clients integrate this, helping them find the right solution and not just listening to the hype that's out there. But basically, we would come in and do an analysis on the products that you're currently making that you're interested in doing 3D printing with. And we'd say, well, this is a very simple product that you're having injection mold. The tool is really, really expensive and your quantity is low. And your tool time is coming up. You need to replace the tool. We would come in and say, here are 3 options, one of which is high flow FDM printing. You can print your part in, let's say, an hour and a half, and it will cost you this much in material and print runtime. And we basically break that down for you and show you that there could be a lot of value in printing this rather than having to produce a mold, waiting for the ROI of that after selling a number of them and so on. So That's typically what we run through with clients is, what does the ROI look like? Is it possible to print? How do we modify it to be printed? And how can we do this with speed?
So when you say with speed, though, I mean, so you're talking about molds, and I mean, I'm guessing that still, if you need, I'll make up a number, tens of thousands of pieces, that 3D printing is not quite yet what you need. So you're looking at shorter run, higher value type products?
Yeah, so this is really great for proof of concept. Like, let's say you want to do 200-300 to really prove out that your product is worth being in existence before you commit to purchasing a mold and shipping and all of that. But it's also really great for low run products. One of our clients produces waste treatment valves. They're 2 feet long and half a foot in diameter, and they do about 100 a year, roughly. And they're currently casting them overseas, and their landed cost is a couple $1,000s because of their size and the shipping and weight. With our assessment and our design modification for them, we were able to bring that cost down to the hundreds using plastic instead of a metal. And they've done all of their own testing. So just one example of how we used high flow to replace a low quantity manufactured part.
So, and you just hit on something interesting. They do their own testing. So what is the quality of a 3D printed product versus something that comes out of a mold that's injected?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on the type of printing that we're doing. If we're focusing on high flow FDM, for example, like we talked about the hot glue gun going around, you're going to see layer lines or where the seams are per layer. But sometimes that doesn't matter to people because it's a part that you're not visually looking at. It's simply just serving a purpose. The finished quality may look different, but the strength of the part may be equal or greater in some senses, lighter. It really varies, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And, I went on your site, you just talked about a commercial valve, but, you've created some what I think are game changers. I mean, one, I'm a pet lover. I saw a 3D printed prosthetic for dogs. That to me is amazing. So how does, like, to me, that's a one-off, and that's an incredible application. And prosthetics, I believe, for people as well. Am I correct with that?
You are. So I'll add to that. We actually build about 20 full limb prosthetic devices each month. We have a separate brand called 3D Pets. And the birth of that company came from a collaboration with an orthotist prosthetist who was building these devices, but losing money on each one, not having the flexibility in the harness or the flexibility in adjustments. There were a lot of constraints, but there was a huge need. But the opportunity just wasn't there in terms of a financial opportunity or a feasibility opportunity. So we came in and we said, what technologies can we add here to replace and reduce costs and reduce time? And so we incorporated a custom piece of software, 3D scanning and 3D printing. And so we took a 15-hour process that was very rigid and linear and messy and wasteful, and we brought it down to a 4-man-hour process. And we've reduced waste by 67% roughly. We've created a product that is breathable, waterproof, flexible, and offers a ton of adjustability when it comes to tweaking the leg angle and whatnot. So just another great example of how you can use 3D printing to transform a business model, make something that was not profitable and had a huge opportunity into something that is, and capture it. And then as for the human world, we have done a number of prosthetic check sockets using high flow 3D printing, where typically one socket for somebody who has an amputation could take 5 to 7 hours. We did it in 40 minutes using high flow. Unfortunately, the insurance companies rule that industry and have really limited the type of creativity that can be brought in. So we've since exited.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough, but that's business.
Yes.
But it's still, look, I'm glad that it's working in one area, and I think that over time, if things generally find their equilibrium in business.
I agree, and I think there will be a catalyst for change in the near future. I think we will get to a point where there is so much restriction, there will be some type of revolt, and we'll see a lot of creativity come from that. At least that's what I'm hoping.
So I'm now understanding something better that I read, and it's turning engineering jargon into marketing gold. I love that. I didn't quite understand it as well at the beginning of the conversation, but you really are turning something that's quite technical into something quite understandable in terms of quicker to market, less expensive, more flexible, more agile.
Can I give you another example on that too?
Absolutely.
So we have a client, Braskem. They're the Brazilian chemical company. Some amazing people working with some really creative recycled materials. One of which is a polypropylene carbon fiber blend. And you don't need to know what that means. What you need to know is it's been traditionally very difficult to print, and very difficult to print large scale, meaning like very large parts, not your small 12 or like 5 by 5 inch parts. And so we came in to help them show potential clients without, sending them a spec sheet, that you can print this very large and it's easy to print. So we designed an 8.5-foot paddle board that we made float, and we took it on the water, and we did this whole video campaign for them without saying a single word. We showed that their material can be printed large scale. We showed that you can make something buoyant out of their material. And we showed that it can be resilient and hold hundreds of pounds of a person on it while on the water. And so we really took something that was very complex in terms of its molecular structure and all these intricate details. And we broke it down for somebody to very quickly understand and say, wow, somebody can lay on that material and you can print it 8.5 feet tall and you can do X, Y, Z. We were able to communicate all that without saying a single word.
That's amazing.
So,
thank you for that one. That's
yeah.
So what's the process that goes into it? I mean, is it just that you and your partner and your team are that much brighter than the rest of us, which could be, that's all good, but what is the process?
So, with the catalyst for change in our business model was the hype that we were experiencing. You go to a certain company, they're going to tell you they are the end all be all and that they are the best solution for you, and you should purchase their very expensive machine or material. And we got so fed up with that because our clients didn't know what to do. They were like, okay, if this is going to work for me, I'll buy it and spend a couple $100,000 and then find out that it really isn't the best solution for them. And so really our goal is to help these companies in the additive space separate themselves from the hype, create really compelling content, and create stories that actually help people understand what's going on and not try and win them over with technical specifications. So the process for us is really understanding who their market is, who they're trying to target, what industries they're trying to get into, and really start looking and stepping outside of the bubble that we're in within 3D printing to understand how effective marketing takes place in those industries. We're using a coffee company as an example of really effective marketing for one of our clients who uses resin for 3D printing. The visuals that they produced with the coffee company are so compelling and so detailed, and what they're proving to you that something is so high quality, we want to evoke the same thing. So our ability to step out of this industry and look at others that are doing things very successful and bring our own creativity to the table is really what is helping our clients be successful in reaching new audiences.
That's a great lesson for everybody. Again, just as we started with, stop staring at your own screen, getting out of the office, meeting people, looking at what people are doing in adjacent industries. To me, that's gold, because most industries aren't lasting as long as they used to. So we need to look to the future all the time.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Even in the veterinarian space, there's a lot of vets who've been around for 30, 40 years that are very resistant to new technologies playing in this game. And we see a lot of the younger vets, being very intrigued by the technology and how the devices are working and the success and failures of them. And so that happens with any industry, and those who don't change get left behind. And so that's the reason our business model changes. We knew we would be left behind if we didn't.
Very cool. So a lot of different applications. I mean, you're talking about prototyping, you're talking about potential marketing, you're talking about short run on an ongoing basis. I think that's great. You also, though, you talk about impact on logistics or supply chain.
Yeah.
How does that factor into what you do?
My partner Adam was on. Funny you mentioned that. My partner Adam was on a phone call this morning with a vacuum manufacturer, and they would get all their parts from overseas. And the pandemic killed their supply chain, and it is still has rippling effects on them today. And so they invested heavily in 3D printers and are now producing a large quantity of their own parts for their own vacuums in-house to alleviate the shipping time, to alleviate duty costs. I obviously part of that is bringing jobs back to the US too, manufacturing jobs. And we're seeing more and more of that. People want to have more control over their product life cycle and their product existence and not have to worry about other people making promises or delivering on time.
That's cool. Now you know what? I thank you for that, because I hadn't thought of it in terms of supply chain and replacement parts and whatnot. The other thing you mentioned is bringing jobs back, and I'm guessing highly skilled jobs or skilled jobs. I mean, which I think is amazing.
Yes and no. So yes, absolutely, we're bringing skilled jobs when it comes to the technical details, how these things run and whatnot. But we're also looking at what we used to call blue collar, where people are going to trade schools and they're learning about these machines and how to operate them and how to run parts and how to fix things like that. You don't need a master's degree. You don't need an undergraduate degree. If you have a technical degree, you can run these machines. And so just like people would go off to school to be CNC operators, we're just starting to see that happen with 3D printer operators. So that's going to be very exciting. We think the government really needs to focus on this because it's going to be a huge catalyst for bringing work back here and manufacturing back here. And these companies need tax incentives. They need incentives to keep these jobs rolling in, because otherwise there's still opportunities where it's more cost effective to just go overseas.
What I also like that I'm hearing is you're hyper focused in a sense of understanding where 3D printing or high flow 3D printing fits in. And I think that's so important. I mean, we all get into that shiny ball theory of this is super new, this is super exciting, but you're not trying to convince the world that you can run 100,000 units, at least today, maybe in a year or two, I don't know.
Right.
But at least today, and you've got some really good use cases and really good understanding of how that impacts cost base of supply chain or manufacturing costs and time to market. So I think that's amazing to hear.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Ken, that's the biggest problem in this field, is that there's a lot of false promises. There's a lot of, you can replace this with 3D printing and you can replace that with 3D printing. And you have to be able to sort through all of those promises and hype to really get down to the brass tacks and know what's possible and know what still makes sense to go overseas, because not everything does.
Right, right. So in that vein, and I'm guessing there's major changes year to year. I mean, how's 3D printing progressed since you started the firm? How has it changed your firm? Like,
so 3D printing,
other than you're out of your parents' basement.
So 3D printing has been around for a long time, 20, 30 years. It hasn't been until recently, and I mean within the last 5 to 7 years, this is my personal opinion, that we're really starting to see it come out of the woodworks. We're seeing the materials advance to a point where we can start to replace metals with plastics. We're starting to see the cost of metal 3D printing come down just slightly. We're seeing the capabilities and sizes of metal 3D printing increase, the size of polymer printing increase. We've been in business now 4.5 years. We've seen a lot of it. It is happening incredibly quickly. I mean, every year that we go to a trade show called Rapid, we see huge advancements in terms of the players that are there. And that's the beauty of our firm, is we don't have to worry about competing with them. We simply have to help them just get out of the bubble that is additive manufacturing, 3D printing. But it is growing very, very quickly. Multi-billion-dollar industry that I think will continue to grow. And we're seeing the government really start to pique their interest with it too, which is exciting. So I'm keen to see what happens from that.
Cool. And what do you think? I mean, you talked about speeder printing and whatnot, it's sort of improved. What do you think the next 3 to 5 years is? Do you think it's longer run? Is it speed? Is it different material throughput?
I think everything's going to continue to get faster. I think our material options are going to continue to expand. I think that we're going to see options that we haven't seen before in 3D printing. There's some things I can't mention that we've seen and heard that are way advanced, that people aren't ready for, that I don't think we're ready for, and need their own refinement. But there is a lot to come. Material, speed, technology, I think are the top three. Even this year alone, we've seen a few new manufacturers come out with new processes that we haven't seen before. People are being very creative. They're seeing the value in this industry and saying, well, what if I did X, Y, and Z with this? Could it be 3D printed? And they're making it happen. The VC space is huge right now with 3D printing. So I'm excited.
And it sounds like you're a conduit in a sense of thinking about different applications. And really, it sounds like you're helping your industry as much as your clients, which is pretty cool.
It's really nice to be in that position. It really is. And it seems like everybody's been extremely receptive to it. And our clients on both sides, whether it's implementation or the marketing side, are both seeing great value in the work that we produce. And it's a feel-good industry too. Like when you can help somebody save tons of money, or you can help companies attract new business, that's a lot of fun. It offers a whole nother feeling than traditional product design ever did. So
Alex Tholl, Dive Design. Time is coming to an end here, but let's just end with this. Let's flip back to the beginning. I mentioned that, pretty much out of the gate, you had a product hit Wired magazine. What was that product?
That was our full limb replacement prosthetic for a dog who is missing a full front leg. We worked with a company called Entopology, and we used their software to design a special lattice so that the feet could be shock absorbing and take a lot of the impact when a dog would take a step on the device. And so in collaboration with them, we had an article done and posted in Wired.
Very cool application as well.
Thank you.
Again, as I said, I'm a dog person, so when I see these things being applied, I think it's really cool. And I don't know if you saw it, but somebody actually printed a metal partial skull replacement, not far from us in Canada, about a year ago.
It is unreal what we're seeing. I'll leave you guys on this. There's the college that we went to, they're doing bio 3D printing. So true integration of 3D prints into the human anatomy. But we're also seeing 3D printing being used to help surgeons understand what type of surgery they're going to be performing, where we can take a CAT scan or MRI and turn it into a 3D mold and print that so the surgeons know exactly what they're getting into before they even make their first cut. So I mean, the applications are just going to continue to grow and expand, and I'm very excited to see it.
Thank you for that, and thanks for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take care.